Hey guys and girls, thanks for tuning in to episode 5 today with the Australian Yeti, Anthony Krznar, a very good friend of mine. Decided to dive a little bit deeper into his background that probably a lot of people don't know about, where he came from in terms of his powerlifting and where he started, and then also talking about some mental health and things with his gym at Apex Strength and things to look forward to in the coming months, provided COVID doesn't stuff us up. I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as I actually enjoyed interviewing him because he's a very good friend of mine. Enjoy, guys.
Nutrition, lifestyle, and PED education. This is the Elite Strength Podcast with Aaron Scarfy.
All right, guys and girls, welcome to the Elite Strength Podcast, episode number 5. Thanks for tuning in. I am here with good friend, big, hairy bastard, we'll call him. No, he's actually known as the Australian Yeti on Instagram. I call him Anthony. So pretty straightforward, dude. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I assume a lot of people that, a lot of people will know me if the powerlifters in Australia. But I'm Anthony, aka the Australian Yeti. Good story behind that name. I own Apex Strength with Tyler Seabrook. I am a competitive powerlifter. Favorite lift is the squat. Been lifting for over 7 years now, so 7.5 years. Started in England when I was 21 or just before I was 21. And the rest is history. Competed over there. First comp did like a 7:37.5 total in sleeves in the IPF. Moved back to Australia, stayed in IPF and PA in that for a while and switched over to wraps and things like Pro Raw and GPC last year. Aaron has, Elite Strength has helped me a lot through my training through the last, how long have we known each other? 3 years, I reckon, 2.5 years.
I think I was going to say 3.
I think you got more involved in my training. Yeah, got involved in my training recently. A lot in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah, for sure.
So Aaron was my first intro to wraps, deadlift bars and stuff.
Good times.
I remember. I remember me missing 340 kilos. And, helped me a lot with my nutrition in that last year and the year before when I was cutting. Taught me how to squat in wraps, taught me how to get tight and deadlift bar and stuff. So we go, probably 4 years back, but on and off with Aaron in the last 2.5 years with actual training. And even now, the other day, everyone said I'll shoot him a video and just dude, what the hell's going wrong here? What am I doing wrong? And he always offers insight. So very helpful there. But yeah, is there anything else you want me to touch on with, who I am? It's pretty straightforward.
The cool thing is that actually, you touched on something that I think probably a lot of people don't actually know about you, that you did live in England. It's probably something that you probably don't talk about overly much on podcasts. I've heard quite a few of your podcasts, obviously. And I don't recall you ever really talking about England much. Mostly you're on there for lifting and, maybe the gym and all that stuff. But it's this podcast is pretty straightforward, man. We just want to get to know you, right? So it's tell us about, I guess it does enter into your powerlifting world and how you became a powerlifter. But, obviously you don't have an English accent. So, we know that you're not English, but you lived over there. So what happened there? How did that result? How did you get to England and why, and what did you do? And
so I was working. So the reason I went there, I was working at Crown. I was working 70 to 80 hours a week overnight. And I felt really trapped, right? So I had all these savings. I was killing myself with this job though, working 6 days a week. And my day off, I'd just sleep because I was working 5:30 p.m. to 6 a.m. every day.
Yeah.
And then, sometimes you do a 17, 18-hour shift on busy weekends and stuff. And I felt really trapped by the job. I didn't have time to look for another job in that. So you know me, Aaron, I don't do anything in halves.
All or nothing.
All or nothing. So one day I was just all right, I need a change. I needed to just reset and get my life sorted because I wasn't happy with the job or anything. So I got my visa and 2-3 months later, booked a ticket to England, just a tier 5 youth mobility visa. You can work there for 2 years, even unskilled work because it's for people under 30.
Yep.
And I moved there. I just started training again with someone from the work I was at Crown, and I moved there for just under 2 years. I lived in Chester, right on the Roman walls. Yep. How I got into powerlifting over there is I was looking for a gym just to train. I wanted to continue strength training. I was running Chico at the time on the app. I was doing advanced large load fight, wherever a lot of people start on those templates. And I walked into the gym there, Chester X Fit, it was called, owned by this guy named Peter, really, really good guy. He helped me a lot with my, if I ever had injuries and stuff. But there was this guy named Ross there. He's this, this big IPF guy. He benches like over 220, deadlifts about 300. He had a good little crew that trained with him. They took me under the wing. They got me into competing. So then I ended up that they got into my first comp after about 10, 12 months of lifting. Like I said, went like 735, 737. And that was kind of what sparked my passion for it, was training with those guys because I made such good friends. So the comp was good, but it was actually the crew I trained with that had a big impact on me. They were really nice guys. They all taught me a lot. And then I started working at that gym. So I did overnights at that gym. I was a sucker for night shift. And that's where I started PTing a little bit. I didn't do a lot. I probably had about 4 clients over there that I just, I would charge almost nothing because I got paid by the gym for hourly. And he said I could do one-on-ones, but I just wanted to be around the gym and around lifters.
Yeah.
So worked there for probably about a year before I moved back, did some PTing, came back, did concreting and then started coaching. But man, living over there was a great experience. Not just in powerlifting, just as in I traveled a lot. Obviously, I based myself in England, but flights were cheap and stuff.
Yeah, of course, managed to get around all of Europe, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was awesome. Like some of the, best years of my life, like no stress. I just worked, 4 or 5 days a week. Did what I wanted to do. I lifted all the time, just ate heaps of food. I got pretty chunky. Got to like 130 kilos. I had my stepmom cooking all my food. Nice. But yeah, so I just kind of needed a change of scenery, man. And then I came back and 2 years is a long time when you're 21. I came back and I had more of a plan and a goal of what I wanted to do, which was get into coaching full time and open a gym. And that really helped spark that because I just felt really trapped while I was working so much in that industry in Australia.
And would you say that going over to England sort of matured you in a way so that when you did come back, you had a clearer goal of what you wanted to do? Or did you just sort of go over there and just have a good time type scenario? Or a bit of both?
Yeah, a bit of both. So the first 6 months, I was a bit of a loose unit over there. I partied a lot.
Yeah, fair enough.
Drank a lot. I worked at a bar or a pub. A bar. Yeah, because they had like DJs and everything on. And then after that, I was like, I just didn't feel, I guess, fulfilled by that. I was like that party lifestyle. I'd done that since I was like 16, right? So it lasted about 6 months. And then that's when I really started getting into the fitness industry. So definitely matured me a lot as well, though, just experiencing like England's very similar to Australia, but then traveling through Europe and experiencing different cultures and just meeting different people and meeting people from different walks of life and hearing their stories. So, me, I'm usually friends with people that are older. I get along with people that are older more, and just hearing how a lot of them had career changes, what made them decide to do that, why they are where they are, really helped shape what I wanted to do. And, working for myself and stuff. So it definitely matured me a lot. And a lot of that came with the people I had contact with.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Any cool, funny stories that happened in England that you could probably share that we should know about? Anything that's probably maybe PG, slightly M-rated, not R-rated? We don't know what the audience. I don't know the actual median age of the audience. So we just better play it safe.
All right. So, there's some crazy stories that I won't tell. There's some stories of guys using PEDs that I could go into if you wanted to. It's just a different world over there in that side. Like I never did them over there.
Yeah, but over there, it's obviously a lot more free, right? Like it's a lot more chilled, and it's kind of like just sort of almost expected, like in gyms and stuff like that, right?
All right, I'll tell you one dude that used to train at the gym with PEDs, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
He was a taxi driver, and he'd just come into the gym at like 3 a.m. He'd be like, "Hey man, I just need to go and pin," and I had no idea. I was like, "What's that?" And he's like, I just need to go. And he pulled out this needle and he's like, I just need to go do this. I was like, oh, Jesus. So I called the boss. He's like, man, people are going to do that. Let them do that. So he went in to do that every day. One day he came in, he threw a bottle of Anavar at me. He's like, oh, I don't like these. You have these. And I was like, oh, what do I do with this? This is illegal. like freaked out a little. We had 2 dudes that would always come in. This is the thing. It was just so open and common. Yeah. We had these 2 dudes that would come in, man, and they were like 60 something kilos, really lean. But they'd only ever do like orals, and they'd go out drinking and doing drugs all the time. And I was like, I don't think that's what you're supposed to do, guys. And they'd always get these really capped delts, but they'd never like grow or anything. And one day, one of them, they always train together. One come in and he'd be like, "Oh, we're going to do that 8-hour arm workout that's going down."
Oh, the Rich Piana one.
Yeah. And I was like, guys, I don't think that's a good idea. And they had all their protein and creatine and stuff. Like, no, you know, we're going to add an inch to our arms. And I was like, guys, I think this is dangerous. Anyway, halfway through the workout, I hear one of them scream and drop a weight, and he tore his bicep off the bone.
Yeah.
Yeah, just crazy stuff like that. But as far as like life stories, man, it's just a different world. Like, you know, people think Aussies are big drinkers, but man, like I lived in Chester. Chester's a uni town. Yeah, like those guys are nuts. Like it was always like $2 beers, $3 beers. And people party heaps. Like the I don't know, man. It was just nuts. Like watching the security work like over there because there's no RSA. I remember going to the boss when I worked at the bar, and I was like, "When do I cut people off?" He was like, "Cut people off." And I was like, "Yeah, when they're too drunk." He's like, "Mate, when they stop paying you." It's like you stop serving him.
It's a sensible logic to go by, right?
yeah. Yeah, like, you know, I guess I had a lot of drinking stories and that, but probably don't remember. Like, I don't remember a lot of them off the top of my head because I was usually drunk. But it was just a different world in the way that I thought we went hard, man, and we had a pretty open culture. But going there was like, oh man, these guys just don't care. They just.
Well, what sort of work did you do over there? So you did some bar work and you did some PT work and some, you know, in gym work.
Yeah.
What else were you doing over there? Like being over for 2 years, I imagine you would have had a few other jobs, right?
No, it was just that, man.
Just the one bar job and the one coaching job?
Yeah.
Fuck, that's a pretty good run.
Yeah, at the bar I did, I started out just collecting glasses and stuff. Then I worked in the bar and you do the door and that sometimes because they weren't as strict as we are with licenses. Yeah, they just go, "You're a big guy, go stand on the door."
You look intimidating, go stand there.
Yeah, legit. Now I remember I had one dude come in one day and yank my beard really hard because he was drunk. And like, I'm not a violent person, but he pulled it hard, man. Like he's trying to pull it off. My instant reflex was to hit him.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I'm going to call the cops on you." All right. And the owner comes out and he's just like, "What did you expect? You pulled his beard, mate. We got it on camera." And he's like, "Piss off, get away from my pub." So they just, different world of that. But no, I only did those 2 jobs. Like I really enjoyed those. They were really flexible with hours for when I wanted to travel. So that's why I stayed there, because if I wanted to go anywhere for a week or 2, the boss would just be like, "Yeah, man, no worries. Just go away." Like both of them, really chill. They knew what I was there for. So they were really accommodating with stuff like that. So I had no reason to look for anything else.
Yeah. And I mean, you're making enough to support yourself. So I guess that makes the.
Like I had a lot of
makes
savings,
it easier.
and I just like, not a lot, like I wasn't loaded, but I'd saved a lot. And it's actually like, because I didn't own a house or anything over there. I didn't drive much because petrol was really expensive, but it's actually pretty cheap to live over there compared to here. Like I didn't need to make a lot. So, all my money that I made over there was just for traveling and stuff.
Yeah, it was like almost pocket change.
Yeah, legit. Like, it's not like I needed to work full time or anything. So it made it a lot easier.
Yeah, nice. Well, you were saying you did your first comp over there, 725, did you say? 735?
No, I think it was like 735 or 737 in sleeve.
Yeah, what weight?
Man, I was...
Do you remember?
Yeah, I was probably like 123 or 124. So I was in the supers, but just by a few kilos because I didn't want to cut for the first comp.
No, so you only did the one comp over there and then came back?
Yeah, I did one comp and then came back and got called by the head of PA at the time, and he convinced me to come PA. So I was kind of, I didn't know where to go down here.
Yeah. Okay.
But he called me and convinced me because he knew about me because of the total I did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, cool. Right. So then how long were you down at, I guess, with that particular individual for in terms of coaching and stuff?
In coaching, about a year and a half.
Yeah. And then who did you move on to after that from memory? Or did you do
after that, I coached myself for a while.
Yeah, that's right. I think I remember that.
Yeah, which I got really strong, but I just couldn't keep myself accountable, man. I'd be like, "Oh, today I've got some top sets of 3." I'd be like, "That sounds like a 1 rep max to me." So I coached myself for probably about 12 months, 8 months. Got really strong, got really fat, got up to like 145. And then I went on to Janice Carnier. He's not a well-known coach, JC, but he's a really, really good coach. So he, kind of pulled me back and convinced me that you don't need to do as much as I was doing. You don't need to go heavy all the time, which is, I feel bad for him because, he was a bit younger than me and it's kind of like talking to a brick wall at that time in my life.
Yeah, fair.
So, and then I moved on to him and then it was Ben Polkov.
Yep.
Stayed with Ben Polkoff for about 2 years. He was a PA coach. I'm not sure what he's doing now. But he did a lot of that Eastern Bloc, like Chico-esque style of stuff. But
Gotcha.
Really smart dude, really good dude. It was a lot of work, but I really enjoyed it, and he really knows what he was doing. So I moved on to some really good coaches after that.
And when you look for coaches, is there anything in particular that you're looking for, or that you see in the coach that makes you want to work with them? I guess because you are a coach, right? So as a coach, I guess, and then as a client, like, what is it that you look for? Because then I wonder what, your clients might look for as well, right? Is it a similar facet? Is it just interesting to see, really?
So it's funny. I changed a lot over the last 2 years or last 4 years of what I looked for. So I used to have this bias where I'd only look for people that would let me do a ridiculous amount of work. And you know this.
Right. Yeah.
I would never be happy with someone that would try to pull me back. And then as I matured, I started seeking out people that, what I look for in a coach is someone that's going to be honest with me and not control me, because that's on me, right?
Yeah.
But look for someone that, can explain things and not let me convince them to let me do stupid stuff. That's the big one, right? Because there's no use being with a coach if you can manipulate them and convince them. And I used to be really bad for that, and I'm not anymore. So I look for that one. So I guess the word would be firm and stern, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, you're doing this. It's written down. Do this. Yeah. I look for someone that I get along with. Of course. As well. I need to be able to talk to them, have a laugh. I don't want to just message about training all the time. You don't need to be available all the time, but just someone I enjoy the company. And then, man, here's the thing. You can go to a coach that's amazing, or you can go to a coach that's pretty good. If you do the work, you're going to make progress anyway.
Agreed.
Now I look for someone that knows how to handle this, and I'm with Will Crozier now. It's working with him has been really good because he knows a lot about movement. So I started getting things like hip pain, elbow pain, shoulder pain, just from lifting so heavy.
Of course.
And, as the workload went up, as I got stronger. So I look for someone that knows how to, I guess, program around those things for people that are lifting really heavy, which sounds like it makes sense, but a lot of coaches don't know, because a lot of their clients will get up to, the mid 200s, which is a really heavy squat. Don't get me wrong, but it's not often you have coaches that know how to coach people that are squatting 400 plus.
Of course.
Right. That, know how to make things like Will, knows how to make things harder than they need to be in a good way. So my squat and deadlift sessions in comp cycle are usually pretty close together. So I'm fatigued. I don't need to lift as heavy. A lot of tempo work, a little bit of mobility work that I never used to do, but I do now. So just someone that, knows how to work around my circumstances.
Yeah.
And also they need to be good at communication. That's the other big one. Obviously having a lot of mental health issues. I need to be able to, and, addiction issues in the past that flare up every now and again. I need to be able to communicate openly and not be judged.
Of course.
Right?
Makes complete sense. Yeah.
I'm working on it, and I always am working on it, but there are still issues that are going to pop up from time to time. And I just need to be able to feel like I can be open, but not be judged, which is really important for everyone.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, we'll get into the mental health stuff maybe in a little bit, but I did want to ask, do you find with the different coaching that you've had, because they're all very different styles of coaching, do you find that influences your programming and your coaching of your own clients? Do you find when you're programming, you're like, I remember doing something like that or similar to that. And then, oh, wait, that's completely different. But I did do that once upon a time.
Yeah. So no, 100%. I have, every time I've taken on a new coach, and this is where the communication comes in, because I obviously want to learn from them. And you know me, I'm not the best at sitting down and reading because I've got ADHD. Reading like you do, you like to go through peer-reviewed stuff and you sit there and read that for fun.
I have no life. I get it. Thank you. I know. No
Sorry
life.
I sit at a laptop. Like that,
I know. I sit at a laptop all day, dual screens, and just read research papers all day. But yes, continue. Yeah. Thank you.
So
asshole.
I like to learn hands-on.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So I ask a lot of questions. Every single coach I've worked with, whether it was Ben, whether it was Joel McCorkin from WA, I worked with Cody Lefevre for a little bit from the US, GZCL. We post a lot of stuff online, learned a lot from him, working with Will, learned a lot from them. I've definitely, and even my clients have noticed that the programming is different, but better. As I've learned, you can't just stay in one narrow scope. Of course. That you always need to be expanding. And it's something I've noticed you've done as well, right?
It evolves.
But yeah, exactly. So I've learned a lot from all of them and a lot of different things. So, you take you take what makes sense, because every coach is going to have their bias to stuff.
Yeah.
You're never going to have a perfect coach. Yeah. So you take a little bit from everyone and just learn. Now, you don't want some bastardized program that doesn't make sense, but you're like, this makes sense. I'm going to start implementing this. And over time, you find over the years, over 4 or 5 years, you find your program is completely different, man. I can't believe how I used to program. It was very, very basic and very, very volume heavy, like way more than necessary. And working with people like Will and Joel, realizing that, volume isn't the be all and end all, and pushing someone up to 8x8, or not that I did that, but or 6x8 is pretty pointless on the big list for a lot of people, like especially, when they're in comp preps and that, and getting that explained to me was really good. So learned a lot, changed a lot, also changed the way I approach clients a lot, because, you find that you gel with some coaches better than others. And you learn from their mistakes and their wins as well.
For sure. Talking about, you said you had a very funny story about your name, the Australian Yeti. Care to dive into that before we move into some mental health stuff?
Yeah. So 2016 IPF Worlds, I went over there as a junior, and I wanted a 320 squat. I was obsessed with this 320 squat, but as you know, my form at the time wasn't good. I was a lot stronger than I had any right being. Yeah, look, I'll agree with that. Yeah, I'll agree. Like I had no right lifting those kind of weights. My form was atrocious, and the coaching at the time didn't help. So I went over there. I was about 145 when I left, and it was so hot in Texas, man, which I think was a big contributing factor. I think I weighed in at like 140 or 139. I lost like 5-6 kilos in 3 days.
What a weight cut.
Yeah, I know, right? Like it was so dumb. And I was just drinking water. I wasn't drinking electrolytes or anything. And I go out for my I think I did 312 squat, and it was horrible. Like, and I was like, I want 320. And the coach was like, no, you should just pass. And I was like, I want 320. So I go out there, go to do 320. If I ever get the video, I have really long hair, like a big shaggy beard. I just look like a Yeti, right? I look like a Yowie. So I go out there, unrack 320, and I get the squat call, and I'm sitting there, and I just drop as hard and as fast as possible. And I felt this, like, I thought my wrist strap came undone, because I felt this like Velcro tearing. Yeah. And I tore my quad. Yeah. And the bar comes over my head. The spotter pulls me out from under the bar. Yeah. And I've gone down. I'm in like agony anyway. I go out back, and someone comes up to me like, hey, man, I think you should see this. And just on the stream, the top comment was, oh no, the Australian Yeti's gone down. And it instantly cheered me up and made me have a better mood and stuff. Yeah, right. And it was just sort of stuck with you from then. Yeah, it was just a nice, funny joke, man. Like it just really stuck with me. Like the Australian Yeti's gone down. I was like, that's a funny name. And, at the time I looked much like a Yeti. Yeah. Well, I mean, you're not far off now. Let's be real. Yeah, I'm just a lot more well kept now. You're a polished Yeti at the moment. Yeah. Less looks like I haven't walked in off the street. Yeah. So basically, that person they should have copyrighted the name so you couldn't use it. Legit, I wish I knew who it was, man, because I want to thank them. Just give him a t-shirt. Yeah, I would actually give him a t-shirt for free. So if you're watching or listening to this, come forward. I will swing you a shirt. Watch me get 10 people message me now saying that they're the one. Yeah, it was me. It's like, man, you weren't even born. Shut up. Yeah. You've been in the sport for like 3 years, dude. You don't even know who I am. So let's talk about, I guess, a little bit mental health, because I think that's probably something that you promote quite a bit, especially on social media and all that sort of stuff. So if you care to, share, I guess, what it is that I guess you deal with on a day-to-day basis and how it affects you in your training. Yeah. So I got diagnosed a couple of years ago. So I guess it's easy to start at the beginning. I've had it my whole life. I have generalized anxiety disorder, which is you just get anxious about anything and everything all the time. So I'm chronically anxious. So I stress about everything and anything. So, if I message or go to call you, you don't answer. I go, oh no, he hates me. And I just spiral. And then you'll message, you'll be like, no, it's all good, man. I'm just with a client. I'll be like, oh no, cool. And then I'll be like, Tyler didn't call me back. And I'll just start thinking about that, So it's just about everything. And a lot of it is social. And I've got ADHD, which makes life harder, obviously, because I'm not on meds either. Like I don't want to be on stimulants all the time. Your body goes through enough, right? Yeah. So years and years ago in another life, I was a very, very bad alcoholic. So I drink 20 to 30 beers a day, every single day. I did that for years and years. I started drinking at about 15, 16. I drank a bit earlier than that, but like drinking a lot at that age. And then it got worse and worse as I got older. And I had intermittent periods of sobriety, but it was all in or nothing. So I couldn't just have a drink. And that's why I work so much as well, because I wouldn't drink, obviously, when I'm at work. And I didn't realize I was self-medicating for my anxiety, because when I was drunk, I wasn't anxious.
Of course.
I was outgoing. I was funny. I could talk to people. It makes sense. A lot of people do that without realizing.
Yeah.
So when I was about 23, I was in a really, really bad spot with my mental health. I was really suicidal. Drinking was making it worse. And I had a really big night event in front of my family. So I started getting help, and I didn't get diagnosed with anything, but I stopped drinking for years. And then I got diagnosed at about 25, 26. I'd say, 2.5 years ago, I got diagnosed now with generalized anxiety disorder and ADHD.
Yeah, I think it's about that. Yeah.
Yeah.
From when we were talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got on meds for that. So, the meds are good. They don't completely take it away, but they make it more manageable. But on a daily basis, man, obviously this is what people forget about mental health in general, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, anything like that, anything. Sometimes are worse than others. So sometimes I'm really bad. Sometimes I'm pretty good, and I have a good run a couple of weeks where I don't really have any panic attacks or anything or any big spirals. But I'd say on a daily basis, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety is the word for it on the daily basis, which I tend to manage pretty well. My partner, Danny, is very supportive. All my friends obviously are very supportive because I'm very open about it, talk about it a lot. So every day is full of stress. But when it gets really bad and I have weeks and weeks and weeks where there's been a bad flare up, I get, again, really down. I get depressed just circumstantially. I get really depressed because I can't function, right? And, I'll talk to people at the gym. I'll think about every single word I say. I'll get shaky. I'll be sweaty all the time. My heart rate won't go below 110. And then that really impacts my drive to train because I just don't want to even get out of bed. I'm pretty lucky where I still do train because training is an outlet for me. But definitely, when I'm going through a really bad time, I train a lot less. So I'll go in, I'll do the meat and potatoes, I'll do my big lifts, and a lot of time I'll put accessories in the back burner because that's the only way I know I'm going to get in and out. But yeah, so, that impacts on training that way now. I've had a pretty good run and training at home made it easier because I wasn't around people, and being around people really flares up my anxiety. I'm a pretty big introvert. But yeah, it definitely impacts me in my training like that. But I'm pretty lucky where just reducing the amount I do in a session helps a lot. But when I'm bad, I don't want to get out of bed. I'm sad all the time. I this, I get terrible at replying to people. It'll take me weeks to open messages or open them and won't respond. And that's just a part of the cycle, unfortunately. And that's what it'll be like forever. We're always working to make it better and have better coping mechanisms.
It'd be more manageable.
Yeah. Now I don't turn to drugs or alcohol, which is good. I'm sober again. I don't drink or anything anymore. I had a run in lockdown last year where I started drinking, and I quit that months ago. But yeah, we just learn to manage and better it. But there's always going to be flare-ups, and I make allowances for that. This is what I always tell to people, say to people, there's no point beating yourself up if you're going through something mental health. People go, I just wish I wasn't sad. And they beat themselves up because they can't sit down and work for 8 hours, or they can't do a 3-hour session in the gym. And you're really not that. And this is the thing though, mental health isn't reasonable, right? So you're not reasonable with yourself. So I'm always explaining to people that you don't need to put expectations on yourself, especially when you're having a mental health flare up. That's the quickest way to make it worse. And because you get into this vicious cycle of self-resentment. So for me, it's really controlling that. And, informing my coach that training will probably be a bit hit and miss for a few weeks and stuff. So I'm not there feeling bad for not getting the sessions done. That sounds really simple, but that took me years to get to. Yeah, that's really hard. Yeah. Not beating yourself up for doing less, not beating yourself up. I let my clients know because my responses won't be as good. Now I still do my reviews and that, but they'll know I'm not as accessible on WhatsApp and stuff. Yeah. But that took years, and it takes a lot of explaining to clients when they come on and stuff. Now I'm lucky that most of my clients struggle with mental health in the way that they're understanding. Yes. But yeah, that's the big one, man, is understanding your mental health so you can make those allowances without feeling bad. Because that's the only way you really get through it. Otherwise, it just turns into this vicious cycle of self-resentment, and you end up hating yourself.
Yeah, look, totally, fair enough, man. Like, it's funny how it's like you said, it makes sense in that, reverting to alcohol to help take away the anxiety without understanding or realizing that that's why you were doing it potentially. It's just, it's when you look back at it, you're like, oh yeah, like, okay, that makes sense. I was drunk and I didn't feel anxious. So I just wanted to not feel anxious. So I'm going to keep drinking.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to feel anything when you're blackout drunk, right? Like, I remember, man, it's one of my, not regret, and this is the other thing is, I got diagnosed at 25-ish, which is pretty late in life. Maybe 26, which is pretty late in life. And it was a really big thing where I was like, I wish I had done this 10 years earlier. I wish I had done this at 8 years earlier. And I have a lot of people that come to me and talk about that when they get, they see my posts, they get diagnosed in their 30s or 40s. And, it's better at 26 than 36, better at 36 and 46, better at 46 and 56.
Yeah, it's never a bad time, right?
Yeah. And same as like quitting substances like alcohol and drugs. Like, there's a good 4 or 5 years there where I'd go to the gym hungover, I'd train, I'd coach, I'd go home, get blackout drunk, pass out. And just, that's all I did for about 4 years. Yeah. So I did nothing except compete and coach for 4 years. But when I say nothing is in, there's like massive spots of memory because of it. And did a lot of stupid stuff as well. But again, better quitting that at 23, 24 than quitting that at 34.
Yeah, of course.
So, it's always about, you can always, hindsight is 20/20, right? Yes, that's something I always preach and help people manage.
Yeah. I was going to say, how does the sort of anxiety and stuff go for like intra-session? Like when you are training, do you feel like you do get anxious at all? Or once you're sort of in training, like your brain's sort of switched in that, I'm good, I'm training, I'm not worried about anything else. I just got to get my stuff done. So
it's one of those things. It's why I train at another gym a couple of days a week for my accessories so I can really pump them out. No, it definitely impacts my session and it impacts my drive to train hard and smash out a session for sure. So the way I manage it is if I'm anxious and obviously being pretty introverted, not being like, I know I can talk with people and that, but not being the most social person, getting burnt out by the social interactions. Yeah. If I'm not anxious, I can train with my headphones off, talk to people, still get my session done properly. If I'm anxious, if I'm in a bit of a flare up, I have to go in and like consciously shut myself off and just get my session done, keep my headphones on, not talk, because that just allows me to focus on it and I spiral, my session goes to crap. And I the big thing is end up talking about mental health for hours with people during the session. Because that's what really helps me, is helping people helps me, which is why I post a lot about mental health and talk to people a lot about it. But it's a catch-22 because that makes me feel better when I'm anxious, but then it really impacts my training and then I feel bad about that and I stress about that. So I make a conscious choice when I recognize that I'm in a bad spot to be a little bit more selfish with my time because I have to get anything done.
Yeah. And do you find, or have you noticed, is there any variation or any sort of any other moments or more moments of anxiety and stuff in training, like say closer in a peak, like let's say you're peaking for a comp, everything's a bit more heavy, a bit more intense, or, is it, in an off season or even at the start of a comp prep where everything's still a little bit lightish, still a bit more volume, that sort of thing?
So off season and start of a prep are a lot worse for me. I am very goal driven. And when I don't know, so this is, me, always, what do you think I can squat? What do you think I can squat? And until I know a number that I'm going to aim for, it actually causes a lot more anxiety. Like not knowing something, like having I hate surprises. Like it can be the best surprise. Danny will be like, I got you a surprise for your birthday, and I'll freak out for it.
You freak out. Yeah.
Like, right. Yeah. And I know it's not bad. She's not doing it on purpose or anything, but I just hate the unknown. I don't know why. It just skitzes me out. So the start of comp prep is the worst because I don't know where the numbers are going to lay. I don't know what my 8th week of training is going to look like. So the unknown makes it a lot worse. And by the end of it, I have a pretty good idea of where I'm at. Whether that's better or worse, it doesn't matter. It's just about knowing what I'm aiming for.
What the end goal is. Yeah.
So that, it's definitely worse at the start, which is, the opposite of most people. They're usually the most stressed because of all the training and everything at the end. But for me, that's the easy part. Like seeing 420 kilos written down, knowing it's going to be hard, knowing I might not get it is a lot easier for me than guessing, where it'll be 4 weeks before that.
It's totally fair. It's an interesting one because, like you said, most people would be more stressed towards the end of their peak coming into comp because they'd be fatigued. And, once you're in a fatigue state, obviously things like anxiety are more prevalent, but you're more anxious at the start just simply because you don't know what's going to happen at the end. But then my question would be, in a peak or, not even a peak, even in a comp prep block, you don't have sort of ideal or goal numbers potentially that you're going to hit. Like that's not spoken about with you and, past coaches or,
goal numbers are spoken about, but getting told 410 to 420 really freaks me out because is it 410? Is it 412? Is it 415? Is it 416?
All right. So even the variance is still going to play on your mind a bit.
Yeah, like for me, I'd rather someone tell me a lighter weight and just say 410, and then on the day change it. Like that, I would manage that a lot better.
I was literally going to say that. Like it'd be easy to just tell you that. Fuck it, 400. What?
Yeah, but then I'll just manage that and I'll deal with. You know what I mean? Though so that's something I'm working with Will on that a lot. Is I don't do a lot of RPE work because I stress about it. I'm like,
you wouldn't be able to gauge it.
I'm like, an 8, is that 360? Is that 370? Is that 380? Like,
yeah, I know. I've seen you attempt. That's not pretty.
Yeah, no, exactly. So working with Will has been really good and stuff because, he will just give me straight numbers. And even you, when I ask you, you'll just tell me what you think I can lift at that point in time. Now, that it'll probably be different in 6 weeks because there's a lot that goes into a prep. But you'll just say, 410 or 4 or 5, that'll be there. And that's the end of it. And I'll be like, I'll feel a lot better. But it's a weird one. Like, and it's not anyone's fault. It's not like they're doing anything wrong.
No, of course not. It's
very individual.
It's how you process and how you deal, right? That's part of being a coach as well, right? Even on your end, if you have a client that's in a similar position, you're going to have to do something like obviously similar, right? If they can't sort of function off not having a goal number or a number in mind, you just give them a number and just say, well, this is what it's going to be.
And then you just don't tell them, but that's always subject to change.
Of course. Yeah. And, as long as they have an idea.
Terms and conditions may apply.
Yeah. Put a little asterisk on it every time and then at the bottom in the fine print.
I'm going to have to start doing that.
Just put it on the back of a program or something like that, or the bottom corner. If it's online in the header or something, just so no one can see it. So you did your first comp in England, came back, tore your quad, which is always fun. What's happened since then? So, where did you go where'd you go in terms of your comps and then, the crossover to GPC?
So, sorry, I'm drinking Coke Zero.
Just drinking Coke Zero for those that are listening. Those on YouTube can see it, but those that are listening.
So. Oh, no. Yeah, I forgot you uploaded to YouTube. Would have done my hair. So what happened? I came back to Australia. My second comp I did like 3-4 months after being back. I was concreting at the time. I was only training 3 days a week because of that. I did like 790 something, 780 something. This is just off the top of my head. Third comp I did 801. And I think my fourth comp was Worlds, which was way too early, by the way, to do Worlds. Like if I could go back, I was not mentally prepared, again, being so anxious and that to do such a high level comp. The stress killed me. It's probably why I lost a lot of weight as well. So I did the Worlds, tore my quad, came back, did like an 835 total as a super, got all the way up to, then I only did national comps, like national level comps or like local level. I just competed in Australia. Got up to like an 860 total as a super in PA. Cool. And then I cut 25 kilos. I cut from 145 to 120 and competed as a 120 for a few comps. Did like 852 and a half there. I had planned to cut to 105, but I had really, really low testosterone, probably from years of abuse with everything was gone over.
Else.
So, especially during my like developmental years. Like starting that, all that stuff so young. So I had really low testosterone and we decided on TRT for, to see if it helped my anxiety and depression and stuff. And it really did. It helped a lot. And then obviously with that just under 2 years ago, I switched to GPC / untested. Done one comp because of COVID. So February, one or two. No, I didn't compete last year.
You did the one. COVID. Oh yeah. You did the one GPC comp.
Yeah. So I did that this year. So Not the best day. I missed my third squat because I was an idiot, and then my grip gave out on deadlift with what should have been an opener. So I totaled 970 there, but there was a lot left on that platform. So it's been a steady progression. Obviously, switching to wraps, deadlift bar, and stuff put a lot on my total. I probably get my squat went from like 330 to 420 in a year and a bit.
Yeah, what's funny is 970. Does that still put you in the top 5 or top 10 under 125s in Oz?
Oh, it puts me like, top 3 in Oz, I think.
I was going to say, it's funny. It's just like, it was a shit day, but it still puts you like top 5 or from top 3. I was just like, wait a minute. Like, you had a horrible day. Had finished top 3 in Australia. That's fine of all time, but it's fine.
Should have been like 1,020 or 1,030 though. That's the thing. But these things happen. Obviously you're only as strong as your weakest link. Mine is grip. So it's not like, it's one of those things where like, I missed a deadlift because of grip. It's I missed a deadlift. I just like to say because of grip because it flew.
Well, I mean, it did. Like the footage, it was just straight up, and then it's like, here we go.
Classic Krznar. So my plan was to do pro roll last year. I did that Feb comp this year just to get back into competing. It was like I think it was the Summer Classic, whatever it's called, at PTC HQ. And then I was getting ready to prep for pro roll, and big dogs, which I'm going to run in November this year. But obviously I pulled out because I don't think it's going to happen.
Yes.
My faith in that happening at the exhibition center and that is not high. And I didn't want to go through a prep and not have another comp. Like, it's hard going through a prep and then having a pulled out undo is really, really bad for my mental health. And it is for everyone's. Add in pre-existing mental health conditions, it's a lot, it compounds, right?
Of course.
So now I'm in an off season where we're just aiming for, I'll do 2 or 3 comps next year. I'll do like big dogs. I'll just do like probably invite only comps. I'm not, tied to a Fed. I might do a couple APL comps, but I'm really focused on doing just big comps at this point, going hard for big comps, I should say, prepping properly for big comps. So, my untested career is very, very small right now because of COVID.
So
that's fair. Ideally, I would have had 3 or 4 comps under my belt already, but the world has different plans. So we're just focused on getting really big and strong.
The world just doesn't want you to compete. The world's like, no, we're not ready for the Australian Yeti yet. We've got to wait.
It's too scary, bro.
We're going to build the hype up a little bit. Have fireworks and shit go off when you come up on platform. No.
Well, that PB at last comp 970 was like 117 and a half kilo PB. It was like a 40 kilo bench PB, like a 80 kilo squat PB or something like that. And then, I was unhappy with that. So next comp, hopefully I can pull out another 50, 60 kilos on top of that would be the goal.
Yeah. Well, that'd be just on your fucking deadlift.
Legit, man. Like, cause at that comp, so I make really big jumps, which, I could have gone for the 1,000 on the day and I wasn't happy with it. So I went for 370. So I'm going to change my attempt selections in that as well.
Oh, finally someone listens to me.
Finally, because, losing 40 kilos on one lift isn't ideal.
No, I completely agree. It's why I told you to change it. Anyway,
I know. Conversation. You know what though? Everyone told me on the day. And
of course, I can imagine.
Everyone knew it was falling on deaf ears though.
Yeah, of course. Well, like you said, you're all or nothing, right?
Yeah, well, I just wanted that would have got me the number 1 spot in Oz and top 4 or 5 all time. Yeah. So for me, I was like, no, I want that. I'm not unhappy that I went for it, but I could definitely be smarter with my pre-planning. Yeah, but the only reason I opened so light is because of grip.
Yeah, well, we know that it's there. It's just, putting it there on the day, right?
Can't hold on to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've changed the grip up, so let's see if that helps. We've gone from mixed grip to hook.
Yes, which is horrible because it's so hit and miss. I did 350 at like an APL comp a couple months back. I was in my off season, still in off season, like not prepping or anything. And that was really easy. It started to open up a little bit. So we've changed the way I grip now, like with just fingertip grip, trying to hook grip with just a fingertips because I was squeezing the bar really hard and it was these my ring finger and pinky finger opening up because obviously they're not strong enough to hold on to 350 kilos. So we've changed that, which is again made deadlifts feel a little bit more awkward and just like a lot more painful, but it does feel promising.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully it, progresses along nicely for you. So how about Apex, the gym? How is I guess everything sort of going, lockdown after lockdown after lockdown and then extensions of lockdowns, and then curfews and all this shit. Fucking
pile it on the heat, man.
Yeah, well, it's just funny. It's just, listening to like Gladys in New South Wales saying, "Oh, we've got the harshest restrictions." It's kind of like, no, we've got the hardest restrictions in the world here in Melbourne. So
yeah, that annoys me when they're saying, and you see people in Sydney, they parrot it and like, we've got the hardest restrictions. I'm like, guys, come on,
guys,
like,
you guys, I know, like you guys are rookies. Like, come on, they're rookie numbers.
Yeah. And it's not like
300 cases. They're rookie numbers. We've had 700. Yeah. Like, come on.
And it's not like a dick measuring contest. It's just like people are like, oh, you don't get it. I'm like, oh, no, we get
it. we're preparing for fucking lockdown 10, mate, the way we're going. So like, we're good. We've got this.
Too fast, too furious.
Yeah, literally.
It's like just like the Fast and Furious movies. Every time you think they're done, another one comes out.
There's another one coming. It just leaves it open at the end for a new movie.
Yeah, legit. To be continued. Yeah. So look, Apex is surviving. Yeah. It's obviously been really tough. Like there was a point last year where I tried to leave the gym. Mm-hmm. I called Tyler, obviously in one of my episodes. I really didn't manage last year well at all. I was a mess all year. And I called Tyler and I was like, you can just have the gym, man. And we're a partnership. And I was like, just take it. I'll just sign it over. And he was like, dude, and he's been my best mate for over like 15 years. He was like, I'm not doing that to you, which credit to him. Like,
it's like, no.
Yeah, like credit to him, credit where it's due. So he convinced me to stay. I'm very glad I did. Like I would have regretted that a lot, which him and Danny both said. Obviously at the time, I can be quite manic. I didn't see it, but I just wanted an out because I was over the lockdowns, having my business shut. But look, we're surviving. We've got a really good membership base that is more than happy to support us through, which is more than I could have ever asked for. We're still coaching everyone that gets coached. We're still programming for everyone. Obviously, home workouts aren't ideal, but a lot of people do have equipment. The gym is surviving. The issue is there's no opportunity for growth during lockdown.
Yeah,
so
of course,
we've been, it's like 14 months gyms have been shut down for since March last year or something.
Yeah, it's fucked. Yeah. And
we just moved into a new facility that's 350 square meters or a bit more even with the upstairs. So it's just really stunted our growth. Now, we've still grown in between lockdowns a lot, but it's just kind of like where could we have been and what we were projecting isn't where we're at.
Yeah, where we're at.
And I think, but, the reason I talked about it last year, the reason I stopped really talking about it as much and that is, we've all had mates lose gyms during this. Yeah. So, complaining about a lack of growth and stuff seems really almost death, when people are going bankrupt and losing gyms that they've owned for 10 plus years. So, we're all things considered in a very, very lucky spot and we're very blessed to have the members we do. And, I guess just looking at it like that has helped a lot for Tyler and myself. Like it's still stressful, don't get me wrong. It's still anxiety inducing, but we're in the best possible situation we could be in the current climate.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I guess you don't have to answer, but is there any sort of still like rent relief and all that sort of stuff happening? I know there was for a period. I'm not up to date with any of that stuff. So it's kind of like, my gym is in my garage.
Yeah, lucky.
Yeah, very lucky.
There's no rent relief or anything. Now, we did start getting a grant for, I think, every month. It's not a lot. It doesn't even cover rent, but it does help. Obviously, anything helps. So I think it's just under $3,000, which doesn't cover rent, but it covers a lot of it. So, we didn't get rent relief. We were very lucky last year, though, our landlord. So this is the big thing. A lot of people that lost gyms and businesses, you find their landlords were unwilling to work with them on the rent. Work with them,
yeah, of course.
So from the first month, Tyler's really good. He was really proactive. But from the first month, the landlord gave us 50% off all last year. And that's not deferred. That was just off. He just ate it. He just wore it. And then he gave us 25% off till February or March this year. So we've been really, really lucky because we weren't, as much as we weren't taking money in, we weren't hemorrhaging money like a lot of other people.
Yeah. Okay.
But sense. there's no rent relief or anything. We actually asked in the last lockdown and they said no, just because they're shorter snap lockdowns. But we also understand it. Like he's done a lot for us. Like, he's still got a mortgage to pay and stuff. And the thing is, I just think he's not getting a break on his mortgage. So last year he could, as much as he reduced our rent, they would take off his mortgage repayments.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're doing that this year.
Okay. So it makes
it's not his fault. Like it's,
of course,
you can't be angry at someone. Like you don't want him to be out of pocket either.
No, and it sounds like obviously if he could help, he would, right? Because he has.
Oh, so we have all faith in that. Like, and man, he did that on good faith because we were only there for 2 or 3 months before COVID happened. And he still gave us the time, the rent off and everything. So
yeah, exactly.
He had no loyalty to us. It's not like in the old place we were there for years. He just did it out of good faith.
Yeah, well, like I said, like it's like he obviously wants to help. That's why. Otherwise, he put himself out to help you. So, I mean, that's always a handy thing.
Yeah, I have no complaints. He's been awesome, actually. Like, really, he seems like a really good guy. I've only met him once, but really good. He was just going to use the place as a workshop. He's a mechanic. And cool. He's like, I was just going to use it as a workshop, but I'm too busy. And we're like, well, that's a win for us. Like,
I guess to wrap up, my man, we've been talking for nearly an hour now, which is sort of flown.
Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun, right? Legit. One question that I do ask: 3 Instagram accounts that you follow that you find help you as a person, as a coach, sort of, be better, or help better yourself day to day.
I really like that question. And I really like that you do that, then getting more exposure for those kind of people. That's not just a generic question. So kudos to you for doing that.
Trying to be different from everyone else.
Yeah, no, that's a really good idea though, right? Like help grow the community and support people in the community. Obviously everyone knows about your Instagram, so I'm not going to use one of my 3.
Yeah. It's actually funny because I don't mean people to plug me. Like I don't want to plug me. Like who are the 3 people, like accounts that you follow? That could be mental health, it could be business, it could be coaching, it could be training, it could be just fun, it could be funny memes, it could be anything.
Funny memes.
Well, honestly, man, like just something that you find that helps you. Like
the Nexus Performance, obviously they're my coaches, but they post a lot of good information, and they started to post even more on there. Mm-hmm. So Nexus.performance, I think it is, on Insta. They're a really good one to follow for information, especially if like Mickey does a lot of stuff on there with things like food. So that's a really good one. I'm trying to think of where I learn a lot from. I have been following, this is a bit for the untested guys, and you'll know this. What's his name? Alex, like
Kickle,
yeah, recomp coach or whatever his name is. Mm-hmm. I've learned a lot from his, and just and maybe not even learned, but it's interesting hearing all that stuff. He talks about obviously PEDs and that a lot. So if you're not interested in that, don't go to that. But that's been really interesting, just to hear his takes on stuff and why he does stuff. So very obviously out of what I do. I don't do that for people or anything, but it's always interesting to learn about.
12-month mentorship with him.
Yeah. I knew you had a relationship with him. So someone you'd recommend as well then, obviously.
Yeah, definitely. He's a smart dude.
Yeah. And he posts a lot on there on his stories about it. And he does a lot of Q&As and stuff. And then, I just say, like, honestly, just because it's so hard to see all the lifts in one area and keep up to date on what people are doing in powerlifting, King of the Lifts are really good because they repost everyone and not just the biggest lifters. So they'll repost people with, like, you find a lot of those other pages only repost people with a big following, so they can get they can get shared in the community more.
Of course, and get more followers,
themselves. But King of the List repost people with 800 followers, right? And it's always good seeing just random people you've never heard of pulling stupid numbers. They also repost a lot of females, which is good because a lot of the other pages post just a lot of guys lifting really heavy.
Yeah, a lot of the big numbers, not so much who's lifting. Yeah, it's just
and what's impressive, right? Yeah, exactly. So King of the List is something I'll always get behind because they repost everyone and everyone. They repost a lot of women. And they're not, they do a podcast on that I don't actually listen to, but it's just good to have one area I can go, I want to see the biggest lifts this week. And I know they'll all be on there.
Yeah, for sure.
So that makes it easy to keep up to date.
And before we do head off, I guess, it's uncertain obviously with COVID times, but any comps coming up, I guess, for Apex, any sort of like anything sort of planned? Because I think you guys are with APU or APL or both.
So we're with both. We're with both.
Yeah. So I know obviously with like COVID and restrictions and it makes it very tricky, but was there any sort of forecasted comps, even novice comps? Because I think you've run a novice comp now. So
yeah, we ran a novice comp 5-6 weeks ago. Yeah. We were planning a comp, APU and APL comp for December, like start of December. if we're out of lockdown and restrictions aren't too ridiculous, we will still go ahead with that, but we'll still advertise it. September, October. We'll start advertising it at least 14, 15 weeks out. Cool. So yeah, that's the plan, is early, like first week or two of December. But obviously we're not going to plan a comp that might not happen. So we're just waiting to see how COVID goes. But that would be ideal, and that's what we want to do.
Yeah. So basically we're looking at a comp at Apex, hopefully in December-ish sometime. Yeah.
True comps. Yeah. So APL and APU on the same weekend. We find that works really well. It's a little bit easier for all the spotters and loaders because they could just be there for one weekend instead of spread over.
Yeah, and the whole gym's sort of set up for it, right?
For a month. Yeah, exactly. So that's the plan now. It's just whether we can or not. And if we don't, we'll do one January or February.
Cool. Perfect.
And a novice as well.
Easy done. Thanks for coming on and having a chat, my dude.
Thanks heaps, brother. That was awesome.
Thank you. And we'll hope to hear from you and see you soon.
Cheers.
See you, buddy.